Okay, thanks for coming. Let's make a start. We'll try and keep this concise and quick because I know everybody's busy scrambling trying to get ready for what's coming. I'm not exactly sure what that is yet, but we'll be ready. Okay. So very briefly, I'm just going to talk quickly about why we think we have some knowledge that is useful to the wider UCD lecturing community in terms of preparing content and interfacing with content online. So we have a bit of experience at this, and we think that some of that experience will be useful to you in general. I'm just going to introduce the sort of experience that we have so you can see exactly how it relates to your own unique situations. Everybody in the room has a unique set of skills, and everybody in the room has a unique set of requirements for their own modules that they run. And then Michelle Carey is going to talk to you about some software called Explain Everything that we use quite heavily to create online content for our students. And I'll talk briefly then about some of the details of creating pros and cons, pitfalls, etc. of using that software. And I may do a short little demo, which will probably be ill-fated, but I'll attempt it. And then Richard Smith will talk at the end about another way of doing things. And then we'll take questions from the floor, and ultimately we'll circulate in the next day or so a number of resources, including these slides, and an email address that you'll be able to ask questions to. And we'll collate those questions into frequently asked questions, and again post somewhere where you can see answers to all of your queries. Okay. So we're just going to summarise the experience that we have in running some postgrad courses under the umbrella of data analytics within the school. So in brief, the programme has about 120 MSc students registered this year and about 50 professional diploma students. We have 90 credits for the MSc in 18 5-credit modules. And the MSc is actually part-time over 3 years. The students do 2 modules per trimester, including the summer trimester, so it's a little bit of a slog over 3 years. But the entire thing is delivered online. And typically these students are all working full-time and interface with the material, watch the lectures, submit assignments, etc. In their own time. We do have quite a bit of overlap, sometimes even equivalence, with traditional offline modules. So oftentimes a lecturer of a particular 5-credit online module lectures something that's approximately or sometimes almost exactly equivalent to offline students within our MSc in statistics, or maybe even in our undergraduate programs. There's some equivalency sometimes. So we've got quite a bit of experience about taking, which is what you're all here to do, to learn how to do, taking a traditional offline module that you've well prepared and oftentimes you've delivered over a number of years, and then moving it quickly and conveniently as possible to an online environment. We also actually have quite a lot of registrations to our online modules from outside the data analytics online program. Quite a lot of PhD students, etc., that maybe have quite a full timetable, take online versions of our modules for convenience. So all content in these modules is delivered entirely online. The students only come to UCD for exams at the end of the trimester, and that is not for all modules. Some of our modules do online assessment as well. But typically, our modules are assessed in the traditional way with a 2-hour exam in the RDS with all the other students. Typically, assignments are submitted through Brightspace, so we have some experience with that. Some of you are probably already doing that. And are graded typically by tutors, PhD students within the school. Our modules, although all, broadly speaking, statistical in nature, they cover quite a bit of, or mathematical in nature, they do cover quite a bit of theory application and even coding. So that's the sort of type of thing that we're familiar with delivering and assessing. I think it's worth pointing out that discussion forums that we run through Brightspace are very much central to the success of this program. Because we're not seeing the students and standing in front of them, this is how we interact with them, other than just pushing material to them constantly and expecting them to hopefully digest it and progress through it. So I would recommend, where possible, to strongly look at the idea of having opening up the discussion forums that you may already have noticed are available on Brightspace. The way we do this is that these are monitored each week by designated tutors. There's one or more tutors, depending on the size of the module, that are dedicated to checking that module a couple of times per week, and then they bill us for a set number of hours, depending on how busy the discussion forums are for that particular module. And these forums are heavily used by these students because they know that that's how they're going to interact with us, interact with the material, ask questions, make comments, talk to each other quite a bit as well, which is helping. I do recommend if you set up discussion forums, this is something that we've learned the hard way, that you set up explicit rules for how to deal with these discussion forums. And we have a set of rules for the lecturer / module coordinator, who may or may not actually be the same person, the tutor, and for the students. And we have set rules that all three groups of people can see the rules for each other, so they know what to expect. The students know that if they post something at 10 p.m. on a Sunday, they won't necessarily get an answer by 9 a.m. on a Monday. But we have to make that explicit, we've learned. We also know that we tell the tutors, if you're being paid for 4 hours a week of monitoring, that you don't do nothing for a week and then do 8 hours to catch up. The students will be annoyed by that and will be left behind and frustrated. Politeness is a key thing that we have here. We give example, good and bad interactions for both students and tutors for how to interact with these discussion forums to keep them healthy, keep them civilized. So primarily what we do in terms of creating content that the students must then digest is that we use video walkthroughs and screencasts. So we'll show you today how to create the video walkthroughs, and the screencast is just to literally record your laptop screen or your computer screen along with audio, so that is then what the students will see as a video of what you've been doing, whether it's coding and speaking as to why you're making the choices you're making as you create computer code, or just flicking through slides, etc. Primarily, we create these videos of the lectures, which we'll demo today, using something called Explain Everything. It's not the only show in town, it's not the only way to create online content like this, but over time we've all sort of progressed to it. Those who started out using some alternative software have ended up using Explain Everything. We do feel that it offers the best set of tools, and for us the best set of tools is the thing to get your lectures online quickest, and I think that's even more true for everyone in this room because we are scrambling. This is a fast evolving situation, and can't emphasize this enough, speed is key. Getting the material up and not taking a day to do a 1 hour lecture is your most important, your key mission statement here. Does this work? It's not much use in us giving you advice if what we're doing is not being happily received by our students. This does work. We've had growing student numbers and we've had a lot of student satisfaction over time in this data analytics program. So just to give you a couple of testimonials. First, I've chosen a testimonial where a student has really highlighted this is not the same as a massive open online course, a MOOC, that you may be familiar with. That is not what we're trying to emulate here. Our student numbers, as you saw, are 120 MSc students, 50 Prof Dip students. These are not massive open online things where you have some of the Stanford programs that are 10,000 student sign-ups, where you couldn't possibly assess. We do assess, we do monitor students individually as they progress through the program. We do assess them at a similar level to students would expect should they be sitting in a lecture theatre like this in UCD. This student may be a good person to be liaising with at the moment. This is the lead information architect in the HSE, took our MSc program and found that it gave them the tools and knowledge required to gain insight for being the lead information architect, data analyst if you like, for the HSE. I'm sure this person is very busy at the moment. And I'll also highlight that they found the lecturers and support staff helpful and supportive, and I think that this again is something that's really key to this. Creating beautiful, wonderful content and pushing it online and then waiting until assessment is not the way to do things here. You need to be interacting with how the students are digesting that which you can do very well in Brightspace as the lectures progress. This student is just highlighting that engaging in their own time and remotely was key to why they found the MSc good. And they found that the additional discussion in the forums was something that really added to their experience. So again, I'm just highlighting that as something that I'd strongly advise you to try and create and support week by week, if you can. And also continuous involvement with the material through assignments and homeworks, I think, is really key. One thing that I do myself is, because the grading of assignments does take time, and we only have so many tutors and so much money to pay those tutors, I aim for just a couple of continuous assessment pieces per module, but I give them ungraded material week by week. So every single week I give them 1 or 2 pieces of ungraded homework assignments that I expect them to be able to work through, and then a week later I post worked through solutions. And I think that's something that I'd strongly recommend, so that the students don't feel like they're unsure how much of everything they understand, that they can monitor their own progression through the material. So in summary, it's very achievable to do online delivery. It's less achievable maybe in terms of the limited amount of time that you have for this, but it is possible to do this in a successful way, that you can create online content, monitor students' progression through it, and have them feel that this is a good way to digest level 4 material. Hopefully that also means levels 1, 2 and 3, but of course they have, as you'll know, slightly different challenges, especially in terms of student progression and student motivation. We find that the Brightspace virtual learning environment is actually very good for doing delivery of online content. There's some really good tools in there that we can use. We're going to post all of the material that you see today online, and we'll circulate a link to that in the next sort of 24 hours approximately, hopefully, along with an email address where you can send queries that we're going to collate into frequently asked question documents. Okay, so at that point I'd like to hand over to Michelle.
Okay, thanks Mike. So good morning everybody, my name is Michelle Carey, I'm a lecturer here in the School of Maths and Stats, and I've been teaching on the online programme for the last 3 years. So I've been teaching predictive analytics is my course, and all my material, all the learning material, has been developed through the Explain Everything app. So I'm going to talk about the Explain Everything app today because I find it very easy to use. So what is Explain Everything? It's just an interactive whiteboard. Why do I like it so much? Because I can take my PDF files, my lecture notes, or your PowerPoint files, or in fact it has the ability to move with a lot of different types of files, so Word files, XLS files, so Excel files. So any type of file that we can think of, we can build in to Explain Everything very easily, and then I can annotate, narrate, and animate my material. Okay, so it's very flexible because it can deal with lots of different types. It also can integrate very nicely with other kind of storage platforms that we have available. So we know that a lot of our stuff is either stored on Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive, and it easily integrates with all of this different software. The other thing that makes it very nice is that I can use it on a lot of different platforms. So I can use it on the web with my desktop or my laptop. I can use it on my iPad or my Android device. So I can use it on my phones, on my tablets. So there's a lot of flexibility of where I can record the material. Okay, if I wanted to start with it, what would it look like? So if I type this into the address bar on any web browser, I'll be greeted with this screen. And this is the home page for Explain Everything. And I'll talk about this in more detail in a minute. I'll just talk about how to get it first. Your other options for getting Explain Everything is, if you're on an iOS device, download it from the App Store. And if you're on an Android device, download it from Google Play. Okay, once you get it, there is a slight charge with it, to be fair, but it is no money for the original one, which you can sign up for free, and this will allow you to create 3 videos. So what I would suggest is sign up for free first, try it out, see how you're getting on with it. Some people will love it, some people will hate it, but this will give you a nice trial. So you can create 3 projects on that, and you can use pretty much everything you can use with the full price one, but obviously you're only able to create 3 projects, so that's not going to be enough. The full price one for the educator is $24.99 a year, so it's still not majorly expensive. Okay? And this will allow you to create unlimited projects, and it will give you 500 megabytes storage on their cloud. If there are a group of you going together to get this, all want to use Explain Everything, then there's more than 10 of you looking to get Explain Everything within the school, then you can get the group plan, and that reduces it to $8.99 each, which is very reasonable per year. Okay, that being said, let's say you have Explain Everything, you open it up on your app. This is the home screen that you'll be greeted with. So, the first couple of things that I want to show you is you have 4 items here. So the first one is this is to create a new project. This is to invite people to collaborate with you on a particular project you already have. This is to join a project that somebody has created and you want to collaborate with them. And this is to share your project to other people. Okay, and I'll go through each of these in turn. On the bottom here, it'll give you all your recent projects. So you can see here are some of the projects that I had created throughout my module. And on the bottom here, you have this tab. So the tab here, this is the home tab. So this will always bring you back to this screen. Then you have the library tab. This, I'll show you what that brings you to in a minute. You have the learn tab and the search tab. So let's click the library tab. If I go into the library tab, this just gives you a place where it'll show you all the projects that you have stored on this device. So here, my module is called Predictive Analytics, so I have all 25 projects stored in this folder. You also can access your space that they have given you on the cloud, so they'll give you space on the My Drive cloud, which looks exactly like Google Drive. So you have a My Drive part and a Shared With Me part. So I can share folders with other people and have collaborative projects, or I can just share to my own space and have my own projects. The next thing we want to look at is Learn. So if I click Learn down here, you'll get this page. And what this tells you, it gives you loads of blogs on tips and tricks for creating Explain Everything videos. I find that this doesn't work very well for us because there isn't much out there for higher education. This is really aimed at primary level education. Although they do have some really neat videos, so if you're doing things with your kids, I would recommend looking at this. There's a really cool one about space. So they have lovely videos, but they're not really aimed at us, but it can give us an idea of the types of things we can do with it. And then last is search. So the search button will let you search any keywords and it'll bring up projects, just like a search bar will, right? Okay, so back to the main screen. So this is the home screen, and now we're going to create a new project. So I click here on the new project button, and up will come this. So it gives you 3 options. I can either start with a blank canvas, a template, or a predefined file that I already have. If I click the option blank canvas, I will get this screen here. And this is the start of the screen where you're ready to start recording your video. And Mike will go through all the options. There's various different options here on the left-hand side that allows you to write, to bring in clip art, to bring in web links, lots of different options. You can have a video in here. So Mike will discuss all the different things that you can do at this point. I'm just going to show you the general introduction to the interface. Okay, so I'll leave this to Mike. So the second thing you could do here is you could click a template. If you said, I want something a little bit more exciting than that whiteboard. These are the predefined templates that you have, so it's not getting much better. So you can get a chalkboard or a notepad. But there is one that I find particularly useful in this. So if I have to communicate with my research students remotely and have a meeting, I often find it good to take the meeting template because I can talk to them with this. I can invite them to one of these Explain Everything whiteboards, and essentially then we can talk to one another, we can write, and they can draw, they can pull up things from the internet and show me, so that we can interactively communicate. So it's just like they're sitting in front of me in the room. Okay, so this I find very useful, but the other templates I don't use that much. Okay, so back to how to create lectures. So I normally have all my lecture material pre-defined in a PDF file, and you might have it in a PowerPoint file. So how do I access that? So we click on the Files button. And this will bring me to all the different storage devices that are available that interact with Explain Everything. So all my files are saved on Google Drive, but you could have your files saved on OneDrive or Dropbox or whichever one you prefer. So you go into that. I'm going to show you the Google Drive one. So I click on Google Drive, I navigate to the folder where I have all my teaching material. So you can see here are all my lecture notes, and there's actually some videos that I've already created. So if I want to select, say, Week 10's lecture notes there, I would just click on it, it would turn purple, and then I can click Import. And it's as simple as that. The next thing that it gives me is it says to me, okay, would you like each of the individual pages in your PDF file to come into your Explain Everything project? And in most cases, you do. So you just leave all of these on as select, it will select all. But if, for example, I wanted page 1, but I've decided for some reason the second page in my PDF I don't want, I would just click the second page here, and then it would not be imported in, okay? The other thing that it gives you is an option. It says, how would you like these pages to come into your Explain Everything project? And in most cases, you want them to come in separate slides. It's easier if you do everything in a separate slide, do the recordings on a separate slide, because if you make a mistake, you can just go back to that particular slide. It's much easier to edit. Okay, so I put them in as separate slides, but you can also put them in gridded so that all your PDF, all your pages will appear in grid across the screen. You can have them stacked horizontally, stacked vertically, but as I said, I would recommend separate slides. If I put them in as separate slides, again I'm back to this screen, except this time, instead of the white space at the behind, I've got the first page of my PDF, and I'm ready to start recording that. Okay, and again, Mike will go through how to do the recordings in a minute. Okay, the next thing is the invite or collaborate. If you've got a small class, less than 15 students, this may work well. I normally don't use it for my classes. I use it if I want to talk to any of the research students, or if I want to talk to my collaborators. So if we have, again, it works in the same way. I want to invite someone to a particular project. So I click the invite button. I'll be shown the same options as before. I can invite them and have a conversation with a blank canvas. We can have a conversation on a particular template, or again, I can upload a PDF file. So let's just say I upload the same set of lecture notes that I had a minute ago. The first thing that you will be greeted with when you're doing an invite session is to whether you want to have your microphone on or off when you enter the session. So here, it will automatically default to mute your microphone, so I'm going to leave it on the default setting. If you click here on your name, you will unmute yourself and you'll be able to talk and communicate then with the other person joined in the session. The next thing it'll ask you is how would you like to invite someone to the session? So you can invite someone to the session by giving them this code, and then they can go onto their Explain Everything device, enter in this code, and they will automatically be joined to this session. And then they'll be able to talk to you. The second option is you can create a link. So click on this here, and it'll create this link, and you can share it, and then they can use that web link to be automatically connected to this session. Or you can invite them by email. So put their email address in here, and then it'll send them an email inviting them to the session. Once they're in the session, what does it look like? So now you have all the flexibility you have while you're creating the video. So you can write, you can talk. But the nice thing about this is it's not just recording your speech, but you can also talk to the other participant in the session. Okay? So here, this is me on my iPad, and then I was doing this myself, so it was me on my phone. So I could unmute myself and I would hear myself on my phone, and I could unmute it on the phone and hear it on the iPad, but it gives you the idea of how it works. Okay, and again, Mike will go through the various options that you can do at this stage. Okay, what if I'm on the other side of this? So I didn't set up the invite session or the joint project, but I want to join the project. So one of my students has set up a project they want to discuss with me. How do I join it? So if they've given me that code, so here remember I said that there's a code associated with every joint session. They send me that code. I can join on my Explain Everything device by clicking here and then entering that code in here. And once I enter that code, I'm again brought back to the join session. Okay, so the last option here then is to share. So I want to be able to share the project that I've created. So I click share. It gives me a list of all the projects that I have available on this device. And let's say that I want to share the interactions project. So I share this. I can either do this in 3 ways. I can create a web link video, I can export it, or I can broadcast it. So I'm going to talk through these 2 because these are the ones that I use. So create a web link video. I essentially just click that link and it'll automatically create a web link that contains that project. It'll automatically default that the name of the link will be the name of the project. So here it's interactions, so it's calling it interactions. And the key thing to remember is whether you can allow the person to download the video or not. Sometimes you want them to download the video. A lot of the students like to download the videos because they listen to them offline. And so they will complain typically if you do not give them the option to download it, because then they can't download it to their device and listen to it offline. Okay, so if you do want them to download, just make sure that this toggle is over so that it's purple. And if you do not want them to download, just switch it to the other side and it'll turn grey, and then the link will not allow them to download the file. Okay, what if I want to export it? So I don't want them to download an Explain Everything project. I would like them to download something that's more universal to use for everybody. So something like a movie file or an MP4 file. Then I would go to export. And this is what we do when we're creating our videos for the online program. So go to export, and then I want to export it as a video. Right, so there's lots of different options, but the video is the most universal. So once I click video, it'll then ask me where would I like to export it to. It's going to create an interactions.mp4 file for me. Would I like to airdrop it? This will send it to my Mac. Would I like to put it on my Google Drive? Would I like to email it to myself? And you can scroll across and it'll give you OneDrive, Dropbox, all the things that you have connected. Okay, so for me, everything's on Google Drive, so I'm going to click Google Drive. And then what it'll do is it'll start preparing the project. What it's doing is creating the MP4 file from your Explain Everything project. Once it's created the file, you'll be greeted with this screen. That normally takes a minute or 2, it doesn't take very long. You'll be greeted with this file. So it's created the MP4 file for you, and it's saying what folder on your Google Drive would you like to save this to. So I say I'm going to select the folder on my Google Drive, and again I'm just going to save everything in Predictive Analytics, and I just click Save here, and then click Upload. And it'll take again a few minutes to upload it to the cloud, but once it's uploaded, it'll say Uploading Success, and everything, you click OK. So it is very easy to use. Now, once I have uploaded it to Google Drive, how do I then get it to the students? So this is my Brightspace for my online module. And you'll see, and the others are going to talk about this as well, that what we do with the learning material is we break it down into weeks. We make this, it's very clear then for the students to communicate with us as to what week they're talking about, what lecture. So we break all our folder material into weeks, and then I say, Lecture 1, Intro, Lecture 2, Matrix Revision, Week 1, Lecture 1, Week 1, Lecture 2. It's just so if they're communicating with us in the discussion board, they can link exactly to what material. And the other thing then as well is they tend to download this in bulk, some of them, and so they really are concerned with the naming convention. So you might think it's okay to just put it up as Week 1 lecture, but they prefer to have what is that about as well. Okay. Now, if I want to upload one of these, so a lot of you probably already know this, but I'll go through it anyway. If I want to upload one of the videos, I click here on the upload, and it'll give me this set of options. You'll see the second option says video or audio, so I click on the video or audio, and up will come this box, and then I click upload here, this tab, and it'll ask me to browse where I can find my video that I've created. So I click browse, and I get the Finder on my computer, and then I'm just going to go to Google Drive, I'm going to go to Predictive Analytics, and I'm going to click on the video that I just created in Explain Everything. Upload it, and it just automatically uploads to here. if you're one of the students and they're viewing this, they just see this and they click on week 1, lecture 1. What does it look like? This is what they would see of your finished video. Okay, so they will see a video on Brightspace, and you'll see down here in the option, they have an option to download that video. Okay, and you can see that the quality is quite good. Okay, last thing then to discuss about the Explain Everything home screen is these 3 little dots up here in the very corner. And they're the settings that are available within Explain Everything. So if I click this, it'll give me this screen here. So the first thing is the settings. The second thing is a help center. So this is very useful if you have any questions or queries. A lot of things are covered in this help center. There's a lot of frequently asked questions here. The second one is the manual. So this is quite a short document. It's quite easy to navigate. So it's a very nicely designed document, the manual. And it explains everything. All the options that are available within Explain Everything are explained in detail in this document. This thing is video hints, so this will start to show you some of the nice things that you can do within the video that Mike is going to demonstrate in a minute. And then finally it's just about the software itself. So if we go back up to settings, and we click settings. So here you'll see a list of general settings. So I normally leave these to default, but as your preference, you might want the toolbar on the left instead of the right, and you can change all of that here. So this is just display settings. Here's edit settings. So what kind of project ratio do I want? Most iPads, the best quality will be on a 4:3. So you can again leave these all to default. The export is how do you want to export your files. So the resolution of the video that you're exporting. Again, I would leave it to default. This works well for us, and we want the best quality. The file format, you can change that from MP4s to movie files, but MP4s are more universal. So I would highly recommend leaving that on MP4s. Okay, and then there's various other options as well. The record option, again, this is to do with your camera. So a lot of the time you'll have a camera on your iPad or your phone, and you can record yourself in the Explain Everything app, talking, and so the students can see you as well as hear you. And these are just settings to do with the camera resolution. So again, you can modify these to improve the quality of the image, but these are the default settings and they work very well. The last thing then is the integration. So as I said, I use it a lot with Google Drive, because that's where I store all my files. But you can integrate it with Dropbox, OneDrive, Box. There is a lot of facilities for different cloud sharing software. Okay, so in the PDF files, I have a link here to the Explain Everything handbook. That gives you full details of everything that Explain Everything can do. If you have any questions, like Mike said, please do not hesitate to contact us. Okay, good luck. Thanks very much.
So I'll take you through very briefly some of the details on how to actually create that those videos for posting online. Michelle's actually already covered quite a bit of that, and I would note actually it'll become really reasonably obvious in a few minutes that Michelle is very much a power user compared to me. I kind of stick to basics, which is what I'm going to demo here. I don't use the joint sessions, etc., with my research students or anything. So like Michelle said, it's a web interface for laptop or tablet apps, so you can go to explaineverything.com on any device using a web browser and immediately start creating content. Today I'm going to hopefully demo, if it works, the tablet app on an Android tablet, just because that is what I found most convenient for creating content, and you'll see why. But you can do it without downloading any software at all, just using a web interface. Once you've created your video lectures, you can host them on the Explain Everything drive, but you only get 500 megabytes, so you might use that up quite quickly if you're going to post quite a bit of content. You can post them on Brightspace, as Michelle has shown you. One of the best reasons to post on Brightspace directly is you can, for those of you who use Brightspace quite a bit, you can set statistics recording so that you can see which students have viewed which videos and when. So you keep an eye on student progression in that way, and create summary charts and everything to see how many students have watched week 4 now that it's week 6, etc., etc. Something that I personally use myself, because I have several modules that I create online content for. Maybe this is less relevant to just getting us until May. Is I sort of run out of space on Brightspace and on the Explain Everything drive, and so you can have sort of virtually infinite space on media.heanet.ie. And again, you have the option there to set videos as streaming only or downloadable. But for the same reasons Michelle outlined, I make my videos downloadable because otherwise you get constant requests to make them downloadable. Because students want to watch them on the train, or they want to watch them at their granny's house, etc., where they don't have a good connection. One of the nice things about Explain Everything is that you can edit segments of slides. This is a great time saver. So you create a slide, and you speak over the slide, and you add some content in the way I'm going to show you, and you get up to 5 minutes, and then you realise you made a mistake in the first 30 seconds. You don't need to record the whole slide again. There's some easy to use, quite nifty ways of stitching together parts of videos, deleting or editing annotations that you've made to the slide without changing the audio, etc., etc. And it's quite intuitive and quite easy to use, and you'll be up to speed in quite a short amount of time, so that you can edit just tiny segments of slides and recompress your video if you haven't already compressed it. And that's a really, really great time saver. As Michelle said, it syncs with Google Drive and Dropbox, and it's about €16 per annum subscription, depending on the exchange rate they charge in dollars. Okay, so some experience-based tips. This is based on my own personal experience, along with some tips from some colleagues on the data analytics online program. And I do recommend reading through these tips and keeping these in mind when you start to create content, because this is based on a few years of experience that we have, and so I think these tips are useful. Keep it simple, okay? There is a dizzying array of flexibility and a dizzying array of available tools in creating content using Explain Everything. It can do almost anything in terms of interfacing videos and different audio clips and clip art and equation editors and all these kinds of things. But that will take you a very, very, very long time to create something that's hugely professional and that the students learn the same as they would have learned from some simple PDFs that you import and then speak about. Okay? With some minimal annotation. So that is the route that I take. Personally, I import PDFs and I record some audio and I do some doodles on the sides of the PDFs and sometimes on a new blank canvas if I need a lot of room. And that's about as technical as my use of Explain Everything tends to get week by week, with some very few exceptions. And that's fast, so you can create content quickly in that way. So don't overthink it. Pauses and stutters are natural. If I'm standing here talking to you, as I have been, as Michelle has been, if I say the word am, or I pause for a second to look, that's fine. And it's the same for these online videos that you create. Okay? So the first time that you go to create an online video, you go, okay, I'm going to create a 5-minute video of this worked through example. And it's going to take you an hour. And you realise life can't go on like that. You have other things to do. You've got this beautiful 5-minute video. And again, the students are going to learn nothing more from it than from a video that took you 7-8 minutes to do with a couple of minor edits that you need to make. So a little pause, a little stutter, a little error that you then say, actually that should be 4. The students can follow that fine, and in a way it makes it more natural in any case. Okay? So speed is key here. I do recommend, if you happen to have one, it's probably a little bit late to bother going out and getting one, but I recommend the use of a desktop microphone. I did find that I have a noisy house, I have some small kids, and they don't necessarily behave when I'm trying to record material. So even though I make sure they're in another room, you can pick up the background noise. Or you've got the washing machine on, the spin cycle comes on. You don't have to pause the video, go and pause the washing machine and come back. Instead I use a directed desktop microphone, and I spent, I think, about €40 in Argos for that, and it makes the video really, really clear, the audio really, really clear. So I do recommend, if you have something like that or a headset, to use that, to get one maybe if you can. Use a stylus if you have one. So I tend to use the tablet to create my content because I can import the PDFs, and although all the tools are available both in the web interface and the tablet app, whether it's Android or Apple, I tend to use a stylus because it makes things neat, and it also makes things fast. I take the stylus out and I annotate the slides in real time as I'm talking about them, creating the audio at the same time. And I find that fast, and I don't have complaints from students about legibility or anything, so it seems to work. Keep the video short. We find that students watch short videos very quick when you post them, and if you have them all together in one big 50-minute video, because you're used to creating 50 minutes of a lecture, the students sort of put that off. They think, okay, I'm going to need 50 minutes or an hour to watch that. I only have half an hour. I'll watch that later. I'll watch that at the weekend. And they get behind, and they can't catch up. Keep your videos sort of 5 minutes. It makes them much quicker to upload and download and things like that, quicker to create, quicker to edit. That's all good for you. It's good for the students because they say, oh, I've got 20 minutes, I'm going to watch a couple of videos. And they'll go ahead and do that. So we found that they do watch shorter videos at a faster rate. As Michelle said, it's only now a minute or two to compress a 5 or even 10-minute video. So you can see and explain everything. I'll show you how much content you've created as you create it, how long the video is going to be once you've created the video. So when you've decided I've now finished this video, you then need to convert it into MP4 format. And Explain Everything will do that on its own servers in the cloud, and that takes a minute. If you happen to be in the situation where you've got some time offline that you want to use for creating content, you can still do that, and then you can either upload the .explain file, that is the project that you can later edit with and interact as often as you like, which is really just a zip file in disguise. You can, when you get back online, upload that to Explain Everything and use their service to compress, create MP4, or you can actually do that using the tablet app. But it takes a long time to do this compression on your tablet. For my Android tablet, a few years old, quite a few years old, then this can take sort of 20-25 minutes to compress a 5-minute video. So it's very frustrating unless you say, okay, I'm going to have a coffee or a snack or a walk or something. So it's much quicker to do this using their servers online. I also recommend that you actually work in some suggested pauses. So you provide them with an equation, and then you say, now think about what the ramifications of this equation as n goes to infinity are. And you suggest to the students that they pause it. And then you pause for just a second to give them a chance to pause it, and then you move on. This is the kind of thing I recommend doing. It's very easy to do and it's free, and there should be pauses for thinking or for trying to work out an example, etc. built into this. So you can go to explaineverything.com. You'll see, you start off with the content you want to base the video on, blank template or import PDF or PowerPoint slides. Typically, I think the fastest route is to do what we typically do, and that is to take the lecture slides you've already painstakingly created for your students when you thought you were going to get to stand in front of them in a room and see their faces of wonder and excitement as you give them the material. Start with that, try and imagine their faces, and then import these and begin speaking over them and annotating them. This is the fastest route to taking your offline lectures, making them online content. So you're going to add audio by clicking the red button at the bottom. This is misleading. Michelle's was at the top. I don't know which one of us changed from the default. Maybe it's a difference between the Apple version of the application and the Android version.
I kept hitting it with my hand, so I had to put it at the top.
That makes sense. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. There's a red button, you won't miss it. It's either at the bottom or the top. I think it's default at the bottom. So this dictates the length of each slide in the resulting video. When Michelle was showing you the settings, it actually gave an option to change for the default length of slide for which you did not record audio. So the audio that you do record dictates the length of the slide when the students are ultimately watching it as a video. And the default length of time that it pauses on a video, on a slide that you did not record audio on, is 5 seconds, I think, maybe 2 seconds, I think it's 5. And you can change that, but really I recommend talking about every single one. I think once I had a slide that just, I think it was my plagiarism policy or something, and I didn't record audio for it. And so the students see a quiet slide for 5 seconds with nothing happening, and then it moves on, and then every single person emails you and says, it's broken, that one went quiet, what was that? So I recommend strongly deleting any slide for which you're not going to record any audio, or else do record some audio for every single slide. So really the timeline interaction using the red button for recording and the design tools that are by default I think on the left are the two ways that you're going to create content based on the slides that you've imported. You can then, once you've created content, you can make edits. And this is really, really, really important. You don't have to try and get it right the first time. Oftentimes, I used to kind of write a script that I would then run through once without recording, and then try and get it right the first time. And then I realised after a while this was a very inefficient way of doing things, and it was much quicker to just use the tool in the first instance, and then go, okay, I need to edit that, but some of that was good, some of that's in the bank. And then go back and edit using the timeline tool at the bottom, which is sort of surrounding the red record button. You can just bring up a timeline, and I'll show you that in a minute, and interact with the content that you've already created and make edits. Add things, delete things, anything you like. There are help pages, as Michelle said, and there's also this explaineverything.zendesk.com, which gives some really good tips for creating content, sorted into little section headings that you can quickly find some useful tips in. And then when you're finished, you just create your MP4 and you get a download link for that. Okay, so I'm going to attempt a quick demo. So hopefully this works. So this is my tablet. Hooked up the HDMI, and then you can see down here that I have the Explain Everything app, and I go ahead and open that up, and I get my stylus, and now I've got some projects down here that are currently in my Explain Everything drive. You'll have your own opinions on this, but what I tend to do is I keep things that I plan to edit because students have spotted mistakes, or I feel I can do better, or I want to add some content to. I keep those on the Explain Everything drive, so it's super fast and convenient for me to edit them later. Once I feel like a project is kind of done for the year, done for the trimester at least, I then sync it to my Google Drive, my UCD Google Drive, where you have, I think, limitless space, and then that's there for posterity. If I ever do want to make edits, I can kind of forget about it, but it is there if I need it on my searchable Google Drive. So I can start with a new project. As Michelle said, I can invite and I can join and I can ultimately share. But I'm going to go ahead and just click on New Project. And again, as Michelle said, I can start with a blank canvas, or I can start with some files. Typically I go with files. And I've got local storage on my tablet. I've got an SD card in this, or I can use Google Drive or Dropbox. So if I go to my Google Drive, go to my drive, there was shared drives would have been available there as well. And I think I have this saved under these talks. So what I can do is just create, take some PDFs. I can import more than one file at a time if I like, but again, you want to know that as well, of course you do. Okay, that should come up for you now in just a sec. Yep. So I've got, in this folder on my Google Drive, I've got a bunch of files that I can import, and I can select more than one of them if I so choose. I can, they'll just stack up in order. But again, typically the easiest thing is that you've got your lecture slides prepared, PowerPoint or PDF or whatever they are, and you just import that one set of lecture slides. Depending on your own personal viewpoint, if you've got 30 slides for what was going to be a 50-minute lecture, and you want to just do a video based on the first 5 slides, you can import them all and then in Explain Everything select the ones you want to delete and not record audio for. Or if it's easier for you to do it the other way around, you can just break up your 30 slides into sets of 5 and import those separately. Either way is quick and easy. So I've selected just a couple of PDF slides, and I click done, and it imports them pretty quickly. And it tells me that it's just doing some things there. And I've imported some topical slides on the COVID-19 virus. And at this point, I'm ready to begin turning this into an online video. So at the moment, this is still just slides. And along the bottom here, I can select the thumbnails for the slides. One of the things that it said it was doing as it was importing was creating thumbnails. So here's the thumbnails that it's created, and I can see I just have 2 of them here. Okay? One of the things that's nice about this is I can easily add a slide just by hitting the plus button, and I can import another file, or I can put in a blank slide. Personally, what I typically use this for is putting in a blank slide in between some slides where I want to do a little bit more annotation than's going to fit in the corners of my busy PDF slides. To work through an example in more detail, etc. So here's my thumbnails, and I can also delete those, like I said, and I can flick between them. Just by hitting this arrow on the bottom right, I can see what my next slide is going to look like and bring it up. So what I recommend, and again, there's a lot of different options here, a lot of different options for how you can annotate these things. You can add in existing videos. So what I used to do, and I don't sort of bother anymore, is at the beginning of each video the students would see me speaking to the camera, and I do that by importing a video that I record just on my phone or on a tablet of me saying, welcome to week 4, we're going to use the things we learned in week 3 and we're going to augment them by thinking about what happens if this, or etc. Okay? And then I found that actually the students were tending to not watch those videos. I have no idea why. But they were skipping them, and they were keeping up with the content just fine without that 30-second synopsis of my face speaking to the camera. So now I don't bother. They don't want it. They don't need it. I'm not going to create it. So really, what I typically, unfortunately, this is default. I don't know about anyone else. This trips me up constantly because I really only use this to write annotating the slides along with recording audio. But the default is that you can touch the slide and move it. So I can move it all up to the top right-hand corner and put something else down here. Okay, that's fancy. I don't really tend to do that. What I tend to do is just annotate the slides. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And I've tried to train myself over time to just doing this at the beginning of each slide so I'm ready to go. And you can see I've got different options for colours here, which is very useful. And I can change the size of the pen, etc., etc. So I can select red, and then I can begin what I'm going to talk about. So I usually have a little bit of an idea in my head. What am I going to say about this slide? Same as you do when you walk into a lecture theatre. You don't tend to prepare your slides and then come in and go, what's this? I'm going to talk about this. What is this? You have an idea what you're going to tell the students. So there's certain things you want to highlight, certain things you want to flesh out. When I'm ready to go in my head, I'm mentally prepared. I might have some notes often on a pad beside me, just sketches of what I need, what the bullet points of what I want to talk about for each slide. I find that quite useful. Then what I'm going to do is hit the record button, this red button at the bottom. And that's going to record audio, which will ultimately dictate how long this slide appears in the video that gets created. So when I'm ready to go, I hit that. And now I'm recording. So far away from this, it's not going to pick me up. But obviously stay close to your device or your desktop microphone in reality. And I can see that it's recording, and I can see the duration of this slide currently. Okay? Now I can pause this at any time to gather my thoughts or to make some edits or whatever I like. And now what it's brought up is this beautiful timeline interaction. And this is really nice because I can scroll back and I can delete from here on. If I just realise I've made a mistake, I can delete from there on and go back and start again. So I hit that, and everything to this side of the red line has disappeared. Okay? I can also use these tools here to cut and paste. If I just wanted to delete from one point to another on, I can do that. If I realise this is where someone knocked on the door or my phone rang or whatever else it is, if that bothers me enough, then I can use these tools to just cut that there, and then cut again over here, and then I can just cut out this segment. So I can delete, split, delete all from here, anything I like using that interaction. It's very, very easy and very intuitive to use. In any case, when I feel I want to keep recording, you can also, by the way, overlay. So I can use, I don't do this, but you can do this. You can mix, so you can speak over yourself and record layers. If you want to do some harmonizations or something, you can do that in here. I don't think we're going to be using that too much. But you can also select that and say overwrite, because maybe I'm happy with the annotations that I made, okay? But I'm not happy with what I said about them. So then I can just select overwrite, and now when I start recording, the audio will get overwritten, but the annotations that I make will stay the same. So what about those annotations? First of all, let's just bring that back down by hitting the down arrow. So now I can see my slide in all its glory again at the bottom. And I select the annotation tool, and I select a colour. And I can just say that really we shouldn't be here, we should be avoiding each other. We shouldn't all be packed into this room. And I can just highlight that. And I can say, you know, at least clean up. Once I'm happy with the recordings that I've made, by the way, what I've done there is something that I don't usually do, which is that my audio record has stopped because I paused it. And yet I've made these annotations. Now when I compress the video, those will appear as if they were done in an infinitesimally small amount of time, which is fine. That's often what you do want. What I actually tend to do more, just because it's quicker for me to create the content, and again, take-home message number one, do this fast. Time's against us here. Is that I'll hit record. Again, I've got the choice of overwrite, mute, etc. I'm just going to say overwrite. And eagle-eyed among you will notice the timer is going again. So ultimately this video will include this audio, and it will play this. And what I tend to do then is I will, as I'm speaking to the students, I will note little things and say, elbow best to cover up. I'll usually try and write this a little neater. Elbow best to cover up rather than hand, and then the students will see that writing appear in the video in real time, which I think is actually quite a nice intuitive way of doing it. Again, the students are used to seeing you writing in real time. They don't just see you go to the board and go bang, here's 4 equations. Okay? They actually quite like digesting things as you speak about them, that you're editing them. Okay? And obviously there's various other things here. I've got an eraser, and my eraser has some various options that I can slightly erase or totally erase, or overwrite, etc. And I can rub out bits and pieces. And again, I can do that as the audio records, so the students will have seen it arrive and then be deleted, or I can wind it back and delete it so the students never saw the mistake that you made, etc. Okay, so then I'm happy with that, and I can stop my recording, and I can interact with it, or I'm happy with it. Maybe I'll play it back if I have the time. And then I can add a blank slide. I can add a whiteboard. I'm not sure what the difference between a blank whiteboard and a blank white chalkboard is, but those are options. And I can go through some more worked examples. And I can, create mathematical content, etc. And as long as it's legible, then I think that's acceptable. If I'm sitting rather than standing, I can maybe write this a little bit neater, adjust the size of my stylus, etc. You can do this with the web interface on a mouse, but you're going to find it hard to write. So it might be more useful, therefore, to use the text box. And I can just hit where I want to write text. And I can just write text here. That's actually tiny. But I can adjust the size of this to make it bigger. And I can add that, and again, that's just going to appear in the video. If I've got audio record on, then that's going to appear sort of as if it's being typed by a ghost in the video, in letter by letter. Or I can do it all at once just by pausing the record, typing everything I want to type, and then hitting recording. Once I've gotten to the end and I've recorded something for every slide, I can just hit this icon up on top. And I can create my web video link. or I can export it for download directly to my device, etc. One of the nice things about using Create Web Video Link is it'll start doing this. This is actually going to be on my tablet, so that's going to take far too long because I think that's the default I have, because I used to do this when I was travelling in airports and things. Believe it or not, it worked well. And you can see that you've got the shortened URL that you're going to be able to share for download, and I can either allow download or not allow download, etc. And then for the web interface, by default as well, it'll actually email you using the email address you used to sign up when the compression is finished. So if you're creating a really long video, or maybe there's a lot of annotations, it's going to take longer to compress. And so therefore it's useful, very useful to get an email when it's done, so it's ready to download, ready for you to go and put on Brightspace or media.heanet.ie, etc. Okay, so I think I'm going to keep it simple and leave it there, and Richard's going to talk about some other options. Perfect.
Okay.
I'm just going to download that for you.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, my name's Richard Smith. I'm trying to see how much I can roam freely. I'd like to be a free-range lecturer. So my name's Richard Smith. I do two online modules in the summer, calculus and linear algebra. They're part of a 10-credit program called the Professional Certificate in Mathematics for Data Analytics. So it's basically for people who want to do the MSc in data analytics but don't have the necessary mathematical background in order to go straight into it. So I do this. So yes, as a mathematics lecturer, I tend to want to write in real time quite a lot of content, and I found so I started doing this a few years ago, and at the time I was using iPads and Explain Everything and all of that, and actually I found that I really couldn't work with that technology at the time. I mean, probably things have moved on a lot since then, but at the time the touchscreen on the iPad was I would write, and I would practice as hard as I could, and I would find that my writing just looked like I was 5 years old, and I just it just drove me nuts. So I was looking for alternative ways of doing it. So I'll just give a quick sort of run through of some possible alternatives. So in the end, what I did is I got hold of a Surface Pro. And you have to get a device that has a good touchscreen and coupled with a good stylus in order that you can write in a way that is natural. And I'll show some examples at the end of some videos that I've done, so you can see that I think the writing is reasonably natural. Nowadays you can also get an iPad Pro. An alternative, I think, if you don't have or want to buy a tablet, is to get an external graphics tablet that you can plug into your computer and then just sort of, physical thing, just write on it like that. Wacom is one brand. I don't have personal experience of such things, but maybe that's an option. And like Mike was saying, I think it's a good idea to get an external microphone if at all possible. When you're recording videos, whatever device you're using, it's quite CPU intensive. The computer has to work quite hard, and the computer will then switch on the fan. And if you're using an internal microphone, the microphone will pick up the hiss from the fan, and you'll get that on the as background noise. And it's really important. I think students really appreciate clear audio. I think this is very important. So if at all possible, get an external microphone. And then what I do is I use, in terms of software, so I have the hardware, then in terms of software, I will use, I'll make some PDF slides, and then I'll use a PDF annotation tool such as Zodo, and then I use Camtasia to record the screen, and I will write. I'll make annotations on my PDF slides, and Camtasia will be recording the screen, and it will also be recording my voice. Camtasia is very far from being free. It's quite expensive to get the license, but I think you can get a 1 month free trial, which might be particularly suitable in these circumstances. Or if you have, let's say, Linux, you can also, for free, you can use a simple screen recorder and Cajun Live. That's another alternative. Okay. Right. Okay. How to prepare for video. So the others have given some advice on this already. I may be repeating some of that. Maybe that won't hurt. I would plan for approximately 10-minute long videos. Some of my videos have gone not quite 20, but I would say that beyond 20, that's absolutely totally boring, and I certainly wouldn't want to watch anything like that. So roughly 10 minutes with some variation here and there. So what I tend to do is, because I'm not actually lecturing physically, I'm sort of freed from those temporal constraints. And instead, what I do is I base the material for a video on a theme or a topic, rather than trying to cut it up into 50-minute long lectures. And what I do generally is I have a set of PDF notes, and I will look at those notes to see, okay, which are the most tricky parts, or which are the most subtle bits that require sort of additional explanation. And I'll make videos, I'll base my video content on those decisions. Mike was saying he used to prepare a script, and now he's given up on scripts. I was the other way around. In the beginning, I used to try to wing it. So of course, I don't have a script for a lecture, and I sort of mostly wing it. Not completely. But I found that actually, I would end up spending less time overall if I prepared a script first, rather than just trying to make it up as I went along. I suppose it's up to you what you feel is best for your situation. But nowadays, I will always prepare a script before making a video, because I think in sort of production time and post-production time, it's just, and I feel like I sound more fluent on the video itself. Good idea to self-isolate. Not for the sake of the virus, but because of background noise. And again, Mike touched upon this. All the sorts of background noise that you're perfectly familiar with and happy with, like kids playing and dogs barking and cars driving around, all of a sudden these things become incredibly annoying. Okay, so you're in the middle of an important part of a video, and you're pleased with how it's going on and so on, and then some dog starts barking, and you think, crikey, in 2020 our dog's still barking, right? I must write a letter to my TD immediately and have a public inquiry. It really does, it's really bothersome. And when I write here, go into the middle of a field, I mean, that's not actually a joke. I mean, I think one of our colleagues did actually do that once in sort of desperation. Because of the fact that you have to, in this, next couple of months, have to prepare videos quite quickly. Like Mike was saying and Michelle was saying, I mean, there may not be so much time to polish these things ad infinitum, but in any case, if you can find a relatively quiet spot to do these things, that would be very helpful. I have a checklist which is sellotaped to my desk of all the things I need to do before I start making a video, because I have had a situation where I have made what I thought was this perfect, wonderful video, and everything went beautifully, and then I discover when I replay it that I didn't have the microphone switched on, or somehow the audio input just wasn't going in, and so I had to basically start again. So I found that this is very useful, just so you're to minimise the possibility that things will go wrong. Okay, then just the recording process itself. Well, I only have one point here, and again, the others have touched upon this. Don't worry too much about making mistakes or long pauses. So I found, so I'm used to lecturing, I'm used to, speaking in front of 100 plus people. I feel, basically fine about doing that. What I found really weird was speaking to nobody and being recorded. So I felt like I was just, having to record voicemails. And, in that situation, I end up saying something stupid, and then I try to recover by saying, and then I end up saying something even more stupid, and so it goes on. So it just felt like a really, alien situation to be in. So, but, try not to worry about that. Just let all that stupid stuff out, because you can always cut it out when you do the editing afterwards. Okay, then post-production. I didn't mention earlier that Camtasia, these guys have done a great job of explain everything. Camtasia is an extremely feature-rich piece of video production software. There's a virtually infinite array of features you can use. Again, given the circumstances, I would, if you do happen to use something like Camtasia, I would use about 5% of them, but there is an enormous variety of stuff you can do. In the most basic level, you can insert new video and audio clips. You can edit out mistakes like pauses and filler, ers and ums and likes and so on. And if you do have a bit of background noise, say if you don't have access to an external microphone, it is possible to, there are some software methods for kind of trying to reduce the level of background hiss. It's not going to be perfect, but it can, it can do something. And yeah, but this is really, really important, and especially during these times. Don't do too much of this, because it can take forever. And I know from personal experience that you can spend an almost infinite amount of time trying to sort of relentlessly polish these things. And especially given our circumstances right now, this is just a recipe for not being happy. So so just keep that in mind. And then, as the others have been saying, when you come to render the video, I think MP4 files are the best file format. They're I think the most universally accepted. If you use a more niche file format, it could be that certain people can't play it. Okay, right. So I think now that's oh yes, and then upload as the other two have been saying. So that's all I think I had to say about producing videos. Then I just wanted to give some general tips on how to run modules online. So yeah, the overall structure is sort of what you would naturally expect. I would split material into weekly chapters or units, and then have I find it useful to have a final exam revision unit at the end. And again, just natural stuff. Populate these with PDF notes and all your materials, online tests, and so on as required. Use a general announcements board to notify students of news updates and so on. Okay, this is pretty clear. Time allowing, and I will show you an example of this. You can record a sort of a welcome video for how to use the interface, or maybe unit introduction videos. If you're like Mike and you want students to see your lovely face, you can do that. So that's just kind of the overall structure. And Mike and Michelle have been talking about the discussion boards. Personally, I find the discussion boards, out of all aspects of online teaching, I find this to be the most fun. This is where you get to interact with the students. And to keep discussions focused, I would recommend that you associate with each unit, you would associate a separate discussion board. And then also a final exam revision discussion board as well. And I think Mike touched upon this, set strict ground rules when it comes to when the boards will be monitored, especially before deadlines. So, so I say something like, I will monitor these boards for a couple of hours each afternoon during the weeks. I will not monitor them in the evenings, and I will not monitor them at weekends. And this is especially important to emphasize this in the run-up to deadlines, because you can naturally expect to receive more queries at those times. Because it's easy for I have something like on my introduction to the module, I have something written like, although this web server can run 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, the lowly human behind it all cannot. So they just have to be cognizant of that fact. Okay. I've never had a problem with civility on discussion boards. It's all been very polite and good-natured. And yeah, this is important. Really do encourage the students to post questions on the board and drive the discussion, because we all know that, we're familiar with students being very shy and being very reticent about asking questions, and this is kind of exacerbated in this situation, because now when they ask a question, everybody can see their question, and also they may think, oh, it will be there, my dumb question will be there until the end of time, recorded forever. So they can be a little bit more reticent about asking questions online. So really do try to encourage them to do this and say that it's natural to, of course, asking questions is one of the very best ways in which we improve our understanding. Okay. And on the flip side of that, I would discourage them from sending in questions via email. I find it's better to keep things, in terms of organisation, as best as possible, to keep everything on the site. By the way, I haven't mentioned this, you'll see this in a second, but my online modules do not use Brightspace. I use Moodle, in fact. Instead, I know that this is, most people use Brightspace, but I think some schools use Moodle. I think computer science use Moodle. And there is a private messaging service on Moodle, so maybe there's something like that in Brightspace, I don't know, for if there are more discrete inquiries that students need to send you. Okay, and then just a few things about assessment. Yeah, this is a good piece of advice. Do not set Monday morning deadlines. I tend to set them, let's say, on Tuesday or Wednesday, because you don't want to have a raft of queries coming in at the weekend after you've said, oh wait, I'm not going to answer any queries at the weekend, and then have lots of cross students on a Monday morning asking you, why did my query not get answered? So I would not do this. If students need to write handwritten assignments, they can upload these to PDF quite easily these days on their smartphone. There's a very good free app called Cam Scanner that they can use. It makes a very good, it's almost like as good quality as an office flatbed scanner. So I heartily recommend that they use that app in order to do that if they need to scan something to PDF. And then, when you're delivering feedback, I use a PDF annotation tool to return feedback on their PDFs. So I write on their PDFs and then I send the PDFs back to them, or maybe if I have a tutor to mark the work. But this can be tricky. For instance, if your tutor does not have access to a nice flashy touchscreen and so on, it's the business of returning feedback online actually is something that I haven't quite completely figured out. If I'm perfectly honest with you. In some cases, I've resorted to actually getting the PDFs and then printing them, handing the printed work to the tutor to mark. The tutor then writing handwritten comments on the printed stuff, and then scanning it all back in. So in the absence of the tutor having a touchscreen device to do the annotation directly. Okay, I think that's everything. So I just wanted to just show a few examples of some. So this is the, as I say, this is on Moodle, but I mean I think many general principles will apply. So this is one of my summer modules, calculus. So there's I have a program welcome video there. So that's
Hello, and welcome to UCD's Professional Certificates in Mathematics for Data.
Louder, are you sure?
Both modules in this program.
So
H10390.
Basically, I won't spend too long on this, but basically I take them through all the aspects of the site, how to access the material. There's a video of a video, then how to use the discussion boards, blah blah blah, and also something that I found just a bit of backside covering, but basically. I want to show them how the assessment process works, how the assessment process works, how they download an assignment, and then how they upload it, basically so that I don't get any excuses about how they couldn't upload their homework when necessary. This video, by the way, was produced using Camtasia, and one of the features so this is a screencast, and one of the features is to blur out private information, stuff like that. So that's the welcome video, and I just wanted to show an example of a discussion board. One of the things that is really important in mathematics, as you would expect, is the ability to write notation. Now this can be tricky online, but you can. In Moodle, anyway, there's a facility to do that called MathJax, which enables you to kind of write. So here you see an example of I'm struggling with exercise, blah, blah, blah. And you can see that the students are trying to work this through to help each other out. It's not just me responding to them. So they're all sort of chipping in here, and it's a nice little discussion. And then eventually, I chime in with some stuff. There is this will be a minority point, but there is a facility on Brightspace to add in equations if you need to do that. So I think this works very nicely. As I say, the discussion boards is really, for me, it's what is the most enjoyable feature of doing online modules. And then just an example of, just some videos.
We're learning about functions.
So this is a mostly slide-based video.
Sorry, can you play it for 1 minute so we can actually see it?
Oh yeah. So what I'll do, I'm just conscious of time, but I'll get to. So here's an example of a video where I do some freehand writing. So this may bring back nightmares for people, I don't know, but.
It works by converting a difficult integral into another one that can be solved more easily.
I'll try to get to the writing part.
The idea of it is that we take an integral, but we can usually it's definitely more of an art form rather than a mechanical process.
Ah.
Is equal to the integral of cosine u dt. Now we can't integrate this yet directly because cosine is given in terms of u and we're integrating with respect to t. We have to express the t.
I really hope I haven't made a mistake.
And u by dt is equal to 3. Hence, u is equal to 3 times dt, i.e. dt is equal to 1/3 times u. At this point I should note that dt and du do not represent real numbers.
This is
So
true.
what we're doing here
Anyway, that's I think that's that's just a very quick example of how the freehand real-time writing in mathematics. I mean, this is personally it's important to me to be able to do this well, which is why I emphasised the need to get a good touchscreen device coupled with in this case Camtasia to do the necessary editing. But I should stress, and Mike has stressed this, and Michelle, these kinds of videos, I made these videos knowing that I was going to use them again in subsequent years. So I spent a lot of time on these videos, and you can end up spending way too much time on them. And because the situation we're in right now is, with luck, a sort of once-off situation, I would just, you can't afford to be as fussy as this. So maybe, some of the advice I'm giving in my talk is more suitable if you want to think more long-term about doing online modules in subsequent years. But anyway, I think that's more or less all I wanted to say. So, thank you.